Well, hello, sunshine. What we're going to do today, we're going to cut the base on this chainsaw cylinder. Why we outside? Better lighting outside. Why we at the four-wheeler? Well, I don't know, just makes a nice place to keep the lathe. We're gonna make a mandrel for this. I'll show you parts along the way. Why am I doing this outside? Well, there's two reasons. There's better lighting out here, and I want to illustrate that we don't have to have us a vibration isolated multi-million-dollar machine shop to be able to do this kind of stuff. I've got this old cheap mini lathe I've had for pushing 30 years. So I'm just going to set it in the bed of my four-wheeler here. I can maybe get you guys some better views instead of where it's usually tucked at. It usually just sets on top of a little old roll-around toolbox bottom. Well, without further ado, I'm going to start doing this. I'm not going to show you too much of making this mandrel. I'll show you when I get it done and tell you what I had to do in case you're thinking about doing this yourself. Now we still got just a little bit. We need to face this off right quick. That's got to be able to mash up against the inside of that cylinder on that combustion chamber, and we're going to assume it's square. So we need to first get this square with the world so it'll friction drive off the end of this. And I cut that off with like a Sawzall. So I didn't get it perfectly straight. So I've been working on it a little bit. I think one more cut will about fix it up, don't you? I got my dial indicator on the base, so we'll take another 10 thousandths off, clean that up. And yeah, Bob's your uncle. I got a little lock here on this that I've put on this bed because they don't lock down too good from the factory. We've made some mods on this lathe over the years to make it work. But I can watch my dial indicator here too and make sure I don't have any slop in the bed, or I can watch if that bed moves. There's no way of knowing other than having that dial indicator on there, and she's hanging right in there like a hair in a biscuit right there at 81 thousandths. Ain't even twitched. So that little lock, there's a hole in there, and I took and made me a little piece of brass that fits down there, and then there's a jam screw over it, so I can just mash that down just a little bit, and it puts that little piece of brass along this wave right here, along that angle, and keeps this head from moving. You used to be able to lock this down by locking down your lead screw and kicking the feed out, and it would keep it pretty good, but there was still slop in there. And after I took the compound slide out and built this little deal, which I love, I ain't used a compound slide but once or twice since, unless I got to cut an angle. But anyhow, I digress. So now we're going to start turning this down. We got to go to about 3.5 inches. I'll bring 3.5 inches in down to diameter. So I'm going to start turning that off. We're going to make a bunch of chips. I'll bring you back when we're done with that. Now you'll see I got me a little line marked off here. That's all the deeper I'm going to go down to this diameter. The reason being, there's two reasons. Number one, you'd say, well, the closer you can get this cylinder to this head, the better off you'd be, right, for stability. And you're right. You're 100% right. One reason of this will come into play here very shortly. And, well, no, not very shortly. Well, yeah, well, I'll tell you about one of them right quick. One of them's going to come into play a little like later. I had to stop and put Live Center in here. She is vibrating. We're taking about 10 thousandths cut, which is probably all this little lathe ought to do. But we're just hogging off some material. Hogging it off. Yeah, it's funny. A little lathe, 10 thousandths for that, I guess it is. But we're only taking this up to about 3.25 inches because that'll give us all we need, plus about 1/4 inch to get our tool in here to do this base. And there's a detriment to that in that you're farther away from the chuck, which means you're more liable for vibration. That's why I had to put this daggum or chatter, whatever you want to call it. That's why I had to put this head Live Center in there to help with that. But you can see right now this head or this carriage, this cross slide, is underneath this. Well, I've got to get this head on this side of that so this cross slide will clear these fins. That's one of the things with a little lathe. Now, we built this here, which helps considerably, but it's not a fix-all, end-all. You still got to have a little bit of room. You'll see that here in a bit. You still got to have a little bit of room to, I better check and see where I'm at. We're round now. But you got to have a little bit of room under this here after a bit to come into that from this side of the tool. So my carriage is going to have to be up in this area, and I don't have a whole lot of room rear to work. So that's why I like this longer mandrel. Plus, being a cheap guy, I can turn this one down to what I need for this one. I can turn it around. I can turn the other half down to something else. I can get 2 mandrels out of one piece that way. So I'll bring you back when I get this mandrel done and show you the setup on this. All right, we're down to size here. Just snugly as can be, just perfect. So now we've got to do the setup on this. And I'll bring you through that. One of the first things we're going to notice, like I say, I probably talked about it earlier, unless I edit it out. I get kind of jabbery. I edit out a lot of stuff, not because of some mistakes, just because I jabber too much and make video too long. But see, here we are. We just we ain't hardly got room to mess with this cross slide. You guys may or can't see it at your angle, but we built this here deal that got rid of our compound slide and made this easier to adjust, and now I can just swing that out of the way and we can go to working on the other side of this. And we'll have to get everything in there, and we'll have to build us a, my guess, let me move you over here. Now we've got to hold this with our live center again, right? We gotta poke our live center into here, but I'm afraid on this and here I see that casting line, and I'll bet that's about right in the middle, which is probably where this live center is going to want to rest. See, that point may want to hit that right there. We may have to and I don't have a bull nose one of these to hit it, so we're just going to have to see if that's going to hit that. If not, I'm going to have to build another fixture. And let's face it, the reason a machine shop don't really want to do this, by the time a machine shop makes a fixture, pays for the material, makes a fixture, just going to be one-time use unless they're in the business of doing chainsaws. Got an hour in that, an hour in this, an hour in the other. And the setup, because now we got to put dial indicator on this and zero this base. We want to make sure it's square with the world. We could assume it is. We all know how that works out, don't we? And this isn't mine, this is just a friend of mine's. If it was mine, no, I'd still zero it, because that's the way to do it. We'll hang that up there and see if we can get us a measurement, and I'll show you how I do it to make sure this base is square with the world. And if it's not square with the world, that's what I like about this 4-jaw chuck. I can actually move this until it's square with the world. It should be, because I just turned this mandrel. But if it ain't, we can square it up. Be right back with you. I'll show you my setup on the dial indicator just to check this base. And then I'll show you my dial indicator setup to know we got to take 55 thousandths off of this base here. 2 areas at the bottom of the sleeve, if you will. And the base, we got to take 55 thousandths off both places. So I'll show you how I measure that on a mini lathe, and I'll quit jabbering. Now, sometimes you got to go a long way around to measure stuff, but what I've got is I've got basically a dial board. I don't even know what the hell you call them. Sorry, I don't even know what the heck you call them. It's a long probe. inside caliper essentially, or long probe caliper, what, I don't know what, or dial indicator, I don't even know what you call them. It dang sure ain't a caliper. If you can't tell, I'm not a machinist. I don't even know the words. I just know some of the equipment. But it's rubbing. It is hitting. It's hitting just a little bit of that transfer, and if it don't, it misses here. So we just got to put up with that. I'll move you around here where you can see the gauge. It's not too bad. There's a little dip there where it hits the caliper, but we're hanging right in there like a hair in a biscuit. Did I say it hits the caliper? I got my mind on my work, not on talking. Sorry, guys. Where it hits that transfer. But she's running pretty good. It's good enough for me to cut. But you do want to at least check in, make sure they ain't 10, 20 thousandths out, whatever they are. We're pretty close on this one here. She's running good, all except for, like I say, where that drops down. And those real long ones are on a rough spot. If they hit a rough spot, they'll move a little bit too. But anyhow, I'm just making excuses, just jabbering to you guys. I'm gonna have to actually build me a cutter bit for this, I think, because that has, where that cylinder hits that flange, I don't have nothing with that tight radius on a cutter bit. I may need to build me a cutter bit for that. So I'll be back with you here in a minute. We'll cut this base. All right, here's where this little deal here comes in handy. That deal we built to get rid of the cross slide. You couldn't get to those bolts before. And on a mini lathe, you're about out of room. You've kind of got to get this wiggled in there just right to be able to have enough throw this way and this way and this way and get a nice angle of attack on your tool. So we can just kind of run that around about like a Heim joint. We can about get whatever we want out of that, can't we? That's about a pretty good spot. Now we'll lock down our deal there. Now we can run in here and make sure we ain't gonna run out of room. Like I keep telling you on a mini lathe, and you guys that have them know, and I know I'm gonna be okay on this one, but on some bigger cylinders or some different cylinders or some odd shaped cylinders, oh, shut up, you loudmouth schnook. I can run all the way in there now. I'm inside that transfer right there, but I was making sure I could run all the way in and not hit anything down here on the jaws of the chuck or anything like that. So now we're gonna run up there and touch off, but like on a mini lathe, how do you know where 55 thousandths is at? That's what we gotta take off. Well, I've showed you before, but there's that little deal we built. You dadgum idiot. Oh, man. We're out here with the chickens. We don't mind, do we? So there's that deal we built there to put this dial indicator on here, which works awesome. And it goes on there a little bit easier had I not had this tailstock in the way, but I've got everything zeroed in. And I guess it works easier if the tailstock wasn't in the way. But I built it so that I didn't have to take tailstock off. I can take it like this. I can run that forward, and I don't necessarily care where zero's at. It don't matter. I just need to lock it down in a place where we got plenty of travel, and it's a 2-inch indicator, and I've got to come this way. So I've got plenty of throw. And what we can do is we can run up and touch off of that. Not crash it too hard, just run up and touch. And you probably can't see the dial, but I'm gonna set that to 0. This is also another good time just to kind of run this around and make sure she goes to about 0 every time again, just to make sure we're on the money. Make sure we're still zeroed up here. Well, sometimes you gotta be ready to adapt and overcome. So I had to build a deal here for my live center, because it was just barely hitting right on the edge of that machine surface. So, well, I can't hold a camera and do this. I can't even video good, let alone hold a camera. So we just put us a little stop in here. It's adjustable. Place for the live center to hit. And now it's gonna mash up against this boss right here. It's gonna be in line with that boss right there. Now we can give her some grief. What I did is I started to make my cut, and I just barely made her in there, and I caught this thing twitch. So we'll have to go through re-zeroing it and all that. Now we've got it zeroed again. Shut you guys off, got it zeroed. Actually, I had to turn this bolt around. His tail stock was wanting to play. It wasn't centered up good. It was holding it, but it wasn't centered up good, so therefore it was going to fight against it. Another thing while I'm thinking about it, if it wasn't for this brace, a lot of times what I do is I'll just drill a hole right down there where the exhaust line's up, and I'll put me a bolt in there and hold that too. That's just another little trick. Now we ain't no hurry on this. Like I say, we're just taking a couple of thousandths. We'll call it a cleanup cut, but is zeroed. It should be clean already. It's going to sound interrupted because we're not cutting round. We're cutting an oblong, well, out of square, rectangular. So the ears are going to hit. There won't be very much of a space in there where it's a solid cut. It's going to hit the four corners of the ears. Then it's going to go in, maybe clean up for a minute, hit bolt holes. That's going to be off center. Then it's going to go in and hit transfers. You can't hardly listen to it and see how you're doing. We're hitting all the way around, but I gotta go get my 4/0 spectacles on because I don't have no DRO, and I gotta run that right into the corner. Well, we're gonna take the final cut here, I think, on the base, and then we gotta still take us a cut on the down here below. Oh, if it was a sleeved engine, we'll say on the sleeve, whatever hangs below the base. We've taken 55 thousandths off this base. Well, we're at 55 thousandths now, give or take. About as close as I can get with what I got. And it's been turning off there real nice. Got interrupted with a phone call there a while ago, so I didn't record much. Kept working on it right up till this last cut. Went and fired up, done things like that. Get on my spectacles and get in there right close. And that should be it. Yep. That's 55 thousandths off of her. Now the next thing we gotta do is take 25 thousandths off, or excuse me, 55 thousandths off of here. I'm already at 25 thousandths. Didn't show you too much. Now I got sidetracked video recording. I gotta go in and see if I've already taken this cut or not. Yep, I've already taken that cut. Yep, we're at 25 thousandths. We'll take another 10 here, 11. He wanted 55 thousandths off the base and 55 thousandths off that skirt. There were 47 thousandths, 45 and a half thousandths. I'm sorry, 45 and a half thousandths. So we're sneaking up on it. We'll take the next cut at give or take 50 thousandths. And we're about there. We got to take one more cut. That last cut I'm going to take is about 4 thousandths. And Bob's your uncle. Well, we about got her done. We can get her off here and take a look at it. Oh crap, dadgummit. Son of a buck. Yeah, it didn't turn out too bad. No. Oh, guys, let me have a little fun. Oh, that's a different cylinder. But we took the base down 55 thousandths. Took this skirt down 55 thousandths. I'm not going to chamfer that. I'm going to let him do that. But anyhow, oh, there we go. Just have fun out on the outside. It didn't rain on us today, so we're in good shape. Guys, appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, give it a hitchhiker. If you didn't, my show Julius Caesar. Just consider subscribing if you want to see more harebrained stuff. Have a good time.